I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight. We're going to have a great show. Warren is on standby, so we already got him here, and it's going to be a fun night. So thank you all for coming, and for those who are regulars, thank you for continuing to come. And if we have any new folks, or if you've invited some new friends, welcome. We hope you enjoyed tonight.
Yep. We're going to get started in just a moment. I think we're getting our Facebook live stream connected now. And as soon as that is all set, Joe will welcome everyone and introduce our guest, Warren.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for attending our weekly soiree, Mondays with Mooch. It's great to see you all. Come on in. Don't be bashful. First, I want to thank Ocean First Bank, our platinum presenting partner. Thank them for their support. It's a fantastic bank, and they are so good to the arts in this area. So if you have a chance to do your banking, think of Ocean First Bank. And here we go. We appreciate that you are here and sharing this event with us. For those of you who may not know, my name is Joe Muccioli. Muccioli, that's where Mooch comes from. I am the artistic director for the Jazz Arts Project, a nonprofit organization who for 15 years has been presenting and honoring jazz with world-class concerts and high-level education programs. Okay, so now tonight's guest, Warren Vacher, has become a true American statesman of jazz and a veteran of the international jazz scene for more than 40 years. As it happens, Warren and I went to different high schools together, only separated by a few years, but we met up in summer band camp. He, of course, went on to fame and fortune, while I, by the time I was just finding my way into New York City to study at the Manhattan School of Music, Warren was already sharing stages with the likes of Benny Goodman and many other greats. He was already a favorite around the circles in New Jersey, and he was now in New York appearing with people who I had been hearing on recordings for years and who were my musical heroes. They were famous names in the industry, people like Bucky Pizzarelli, Dick Hyman, Hank Jones, Zoot Sims, Irby Green, and Slam Stewart, and on and on and on and on and on. Every once in a while, I would get hired to play some school concert or park concert near our hometowns in New Jersey, and there was Warren on the band. I remember asking him, "You're playing with all these greats right now and all these great places, clubs and tours and concerts." He told me, "Hey, music is music. You got $50, I'll play anywhere." Seriously though, Warren has spent many years playing with the greats: Benny Goodman, Rosemary Clooney, Hank Jones, Jerry Mulligan, Woody Herman, Bobby Short, Benny Carter, etc., 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 etc. He is now, of course, a revered member of that group, Masters of Jazz. He has been featured at virtually every major jazz festival in the world, played in every prestigious venue, including Carnegie Hall, Lincoln Center, the Music Center Los Angeles, Toronto Symphony Hall of Boston, Orchestra Hall in Chicago, Ordway Center in Minneapolis, the Kravitz Center in West Palm Beach, the Vienna Opera, the Royal Festival Hall in London, and on and on. He has toured the world several times over, and I can remember being in London, actually, where I was conducting a concert for the BBC, and we had a night free, so I wanted to stop into a place called Pizza Express. It's not what you'd think. There was a jazz club in the basement, so my wife and I ventured on down, and who was on the bandstand? Right, my old homie, Warren Vacher. I think at the time he was living in Scotland for a while. But there he was, and we had a great time listening to his combo, the small band. Of course, when he moved back to the States, we had him as a featured member of our own Red Bank Jazz Orchestra, with appearances at the Count Basie Theater, and with his own groups at our Summer Jazz Cafe several times. I could go on and on about his career, but let's meet him in virtual person right now. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my friend, Warren Vacher.
Hello, everybody. My God, what an intro, Joe.
That was great. Good
I
evening.
want to know where all the hair went. That's
Joe, you're muted.
You know, and I said such pearls of wisdom just then.
I know they were very exaggerated, but it's quite nice of you. Thank you.
That's right. Yeah, what are you going to do, Warren?
Show me $50, I'll come play at the Count Basie Theater. That's the way.
There you go. You're on. As soon as we're allowed, you'll be there.
Joe, that was recorded too, so we can play it back for him.
Yes, I want a copy of that so I can play it every morning when I get out of bed.
You got it. You got it. Anything to make you feel better. There's somebody trying to get in here on my Facebook feed, so let me give him the link. Just give me a second. Talks amongst yourselves.
I see all my friends out there.
How you doing, Warren?
My God, look at that. Hey, Joe. Joe Lang is here. Where was he? There he is. Jay Shanman was there. Bobby Tiedemann, I just saw you yesterday.
Jay Shanman, huh?
Jay
How you doing,
Shanman.
Joe?
Hey, Jay, how you doing?
Phone's in the back so we can identify him.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Well,
You're doing well.
By the way, folks, I'm a Zoom novice. Joe had to talk me through this at 3:00 this afternoon. So
But you look like you're doing pretty well. You've done better
something goes
than
wrong,
some
it's
of our
my fault. Something goes wrong,
experts.
it's my fault.
Something always goes wrong. This is one of
And
the things
it's
I've learned.
always my fault.
The one thing I've learned about Zoom and this pandemic situation we're in is something is always going wrong. Now that you tell me, okay, it's all your fault. Now I got somebody to
Blame
blame.
me, everybody else does.
I thought that was my song for a while.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a pleasure to have you here, Warren. It's great to see you, as always. And I would normally say, what have you been up to? But I guess that's a self-answered question.
Well, I showed you earlier. I'll show everybody. Come here. I have a friend in Florida who's making these. Says all warmed up and no place to go. That's the music business.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Joe? I mean, this is going to have quite a knock-on effect to our business.
I think you're right. I think scale has just plummeted. You know, I have a feeling that the offerings for musicians are now going to be less and less because people are hungry for work. You know, and I see students there already just grabbing whatever they can, either for free or for $10. You know,
Oh, sure.
so that could take a long time to get back in terms of the what we're paying. I hope to not be of that crowd in terms of our organization. I hope to be paying our usual our usual low scale.
$3.50. Yes,
Yeah. Hopefully I won't have to reduce it any. But you know, there are going to be a lot of issues with that.
Actually, the people I feel sorriest for are the students.
Yeah.
You know, they were hoping to have some sort of career, and I'm hoping that we keep developing people who can play instruments, because there doesn't seem to be much opportunity for it.
Yeah, and a lot of the colleges are obviously going virtual in terms of classes, but for a music conservatory, there's only so much you can do virtually. You
True.
can learn lots of theory, you know, and you can do listening. You can't really do ensembles,
Well,
which is a big part of a conservatory training.
You can practice as much as you'd like, but it's not the same as playing with people. It's not
Mhm.
as much fun, and it just isn't as much as effective. You need to play with people. The hardest thing about being a jazz musician is getting everybody in the band with you to think about the same thing for 3 minutes at a time. And that takes practice too.
Right. I remember you doing a rehearsal band. I was like thrilled to be able to be called. I was must have been 17 years old. I did some rehearsal band up north somewhere, and you were there, and it was like I'm shaking in my boots, sitting on fourth trumpet or something, and you were there, and I noticed that I had known you, I guess, through band school or something before that, but I remember noting that every tune that band played was of a different genre. There was a tune that was kind of a Miles Davis kind of thing. There was a tune that was like a swing thing, and I had noticed that you must have had the jazz chair on that rehearsal band. I noticed that whatever it was, your style was exactly perfect. It was right there. When it was Miles thing, you did Miles. When it was a swing thing, you did swing, Benny Goodman or the best of it. And I remember that being my introduction to your uh, genius, I should
Oh,
say.
Jesus, take it easy, will you? I'm a working schmuck with a trumpet. That's all I am. Now,
Yeah.
what what you just reminded me of is my old man had a whole bunch of collections of downbeat magazines when I was a kid. And I remember reading an interview with Buck Clayton.
Yeah.
And Buck Clayton's advice to young players was to steal. If you like somebody's solo, steal it. You're never going to be able to play it exactly like them, but it's like getting words in your vocabulary. And so I took that advice to heart. I would play along with records. I'd put on a Bobby Hackett record or a Miles record, and I'd play along with it. So I mean, it's kind of what I do,
You
is to
stole
be
from the
able to
best of
fit
them,
in where I'm put.
and you stole from the best of them.
I stole from everybody I possibly could. I'm a thief.
But you did make it your own. And
Well,
speaking of,
that's the hard thing to do. And if you say I did it, I'm going to agree with you. Thank you very much.
I say you did it for sure. In fact, let's prove that because I'm going to play a little tune right now called Cherokee.
Uh-oh.
And
What's
okay, I think I'm okay.
okay.
Let's see if I can get this together here. All right, that should do it. Maybe. Is it good? Bill Easley. Yeah.
That's Friedland.
That's great. Joe, you're on mute again. I don't know if you realize that.
I say my best things when I'm on mute. Smoking.
I'm telling you, sometimes I got lucky. That was one good band, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
That was marvelous. If you didn't know everybody, that was John Allred on trombone and
Yeah.
Jesse Davis on alto saxophone, Bill Easley on tenor saxophone, Steve Ash on the piano, the wonderful Keter Betts on bass, and the energetic Alvin Queen on the drums. That guy is just a force of nature.
Yeah.
Most of the time you play and you're trying to keep up with Alvin.
Right. Yeah, you could tell that. Do we have any questions so far?
Wake up, Jay.
I'm awake. I'm up. Such a pleasure to see you.
Nice to see you.
So,
I was
You
curious
had-
about your recordings. How many recordings have you done?
Wow.
I mean, are you able to even count I mean, I would imagine you have solo recordings, your own recordings, but then you're also recording as with other artists, I would imagine. Is that correct?
Well,
sideman.
sure. I make a living doing that. So the number of recordings has to be at this point upwards of 60 or 70. Under my own name, there's probably about 40 of them out there, but I couldn't list them for you.
So were you
40?
only,
40 on your own name?
I would think so, yeah.
Then your total has got to be more than 60. I got one that I produced that you're on. We maybe like to forget that one, but we got it.
well, I was wondering with all the recordings you've done, were you working with different labels, different labels at throughout the different recordings?
Sure, there would have been different labels. I was for a time signed with Concord Records when it first started, and I've been recording for Arbor's Records now for about almost 20 years, I would think.
Mhm.
But I do an awful lot of freelance work, along with a lot of singers and a lot of people like that. And they come out sometimes under their own label, or they'll come out. Most of the time, these days in the business, it's very difficult to get a label behind you.
Mhm.
Nobody's going to do it.
Yeah.
That's right.
So I was curious.
Go ahead.
So my curiosity was, the question I wanted to ask was, what would be, it's probably changed, but I'm curious about some surprises what would surprise you about the business that someone may not expect? I mean, I think oftentimes, we were talking about the younger generation. It's a different world now. There was a time where when you got a label, you got signed, you had a deal. Those are good times. And I was just curious, what were some of the surprises about the business that you learned over the years?
Oh, well, there were a lot of them. First one is before I started recording, I hadn't worked with many singers. So they played every tune I knew in a key about a fourth away from where I knew it. So one of the hardest things was getting my ear and my brain situated so that I could play a tune that I'd known all of my life in one key, in another key, so it made sense for the vocalist. Rosemary was that way. I would get Rosemary had a book that was mostly
Rosemary. He's talking about Rosemary Clooney.
Rosemary
Folks.
Clooney, and most of her book was written by a wonderful piano player named John Otto. Nice man.
Yep.
But John didn't always have the time to transpose his parts. So he would write a trumpet part, but half the book was transposed and half the book wasn't. So just paying attention to what was transposed and what wasn't was a big deal. And the next one with that was I was working with Scott Hamilton, who had ears like the Paris sewer. There's nothing that man couldn't hear. The problem was if John Otto wrote a line for the two of us to play, Scott couldn't read it. So it was my responsibility to read John's line right. So Scott would actually memorize the book from the way I played it. That's the kind of ears that guy had.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, you had trouble. The producers are not always your friend. You know, it's nice to have somebody put your name on a record, but it's also nice, you know, it's not so nice to have somebody tell you what's wrong with what you've done with the record. You know, the first time I sat in the producer's office and had to listen to a lecture on demographics, I wondered why I was in the music business, you know. So.
We have a question from Bill Shearer. He says he recalls there's a lot of musical talent in your family. Can you give us a rundown?
Well, sure I can. My dad was a self-taught bass player and an avid record collector. Dad was the kind of kid, it cost a nickel at school for lunch every day. So he wouldn't eat lunch, and at the end of the week, he'd have 25 cents. Then he'd walk 2 miles to the record store and buy a couple of 78s. And when I grew up, the room was full of 78 records that were playing all the time, and my old man let me play them. I'd come home from school, and I'd be doing my homework, listening to Louis Armstrong and the Hot 5 and the Hot 7. So, I mean, Dad gave me my first gig. He used to do weddings and things of that nature, and when I was a teenager, I think he hired me mostly so I would carry the bass and the amplifier. But I did my first gig with my dad. It was somebody's wedding somewhere with my dad and all of his friends.
He did his own recording too, right? He had a record out?
He had a record out, and he had some friends, the Mackenzies, who actually produced that for him. It was very nice. He's got a couple of records, a Syncopating 7, I think he called it, or whatever. That's out there somewhere. It's an LP. Joe Lang probably has a copy. And my younger brother is a clarinetist who lives in Orlando, Florida now. And he's been a jazz clarinetist all of his life, worked with Jim Cullum and the Happy Jazz Band for a long time. And that's it. That's all the family there is. My mother used to say she played the radio.
She played your recordings, I'm sure. All right, another one from Richard. I've been told that modal jazz is what's trendy in conservatory jazz programs. Do you think that modal improvisation is dominant among younger jazz musicians?
Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge. But the modal conception of harmony is a wonderful thing that never spoke to me the way it does to some people. But any trumpet player who tells you he doesn't like Louis Armstrong and Miles Davis is lying through his teeth.
Right. They do teach modal techniques in the colleges. But as Warren said, you really have to go to the origins of music and certainly of jazz to at least begin your education in jazz.
Well, look, that's what I think. The other one is that, what was I going to say? You have to make a living. I was out there working. and I was playing with guys who knew 6 million tunes. So I learned 6 million tunes. I didn't learn what the harmony was. I learned the tunes. That was how I survived in the world. I learned the tunes. Kids go to college now, and everyone walks out thinking they're a composer. And I haven't heard one thing that they've written that I can whistle as easily as Irving Berlin. But that's all I'm going to say.
Right. You spent a lot of years working with, well, many singers. Rosemary Clooney, you had mentioned already before. And for those of you who don't know who that is, if there are any among the younger set here, it's George Clooney's aunt. Right?
She would love
just
that.
Just to give you some perspective. But also, you spent a lot of years with Annie Ross. And Annie Ross from the Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross fame. I happen to have a clip of you and Annie at what's the festival?
Ascona. It's probably got to be Ascona.
At the Ascona Festival. That's right. Exactly right. So let me try to play that. My usual helper is not here today with us, so I'm a little bit...
Oh, look at the dog.
Just bear with me. Here it is.
Just a friend, lovers in the wall. Just a friend, but not like before. To think of what we've been and not to kiss again seems like pretending there is the ending. Two friends drifting apart, two friends, but one broken heart. We love, we laugh, we cry, then suddenly love died. The story ends, and baby, we're just friends. Just friends, but not like before. To think of what we've been and not to kiss again seems like pretending it isn't the ending. Two friends, two friends, two friends, two friends, drifting apart, two friends, but one broken heart. Well, we love, we laugh, we cry, then suddenly love dies. The story ends, and we're just friends. The story ends, and we're just friends.
Sadly, we lost Annie just recently.
Just in June, she was 4 days shy of her 90th birthday.
Wow. And if we weren't in this pandemic, she would have been playing over at the where were you?
Well, we were at a place called the Metropolitan Room.
Metropolitan Room.
They
Yeah.
closed that years before Annie went. So, thing about Annie was she was nothing. A lot of singers like to work their stuff out. They like it done the same way all the time. Annie was a jazz musician just like the rest of us. She never knew what she was going to do, and she played. She hit whatever you served her, and she was an amazing musician.
If you get it, go ahead.
She could read a lyric like no one else I've ever been with. She could bring you to tears, not necessarily with the melody and all the rest of it, but the way she read the lyrics. She was a consummate actress.
I had entertained. I think I talked to you about it. The idea of getting Annie down to one of the summer jazz cafes, but we never managed to work it out for some reason or another.
Yeah, I think I asked her about it. Sometimes Annie could be difficult to move.
Hey, I'm difficult to move sometimes. Anyway, I was going to go somewhere, but I forgot where I was going to go. See?
Age is wonderful.
It sure is.
I saw a question in the chat room about asking Warren about a movie, his movie. Is that
Oh, my
correct?
God.
What about Warren, tell us about your movie. That question comes from Robert.
From my movie. Yes, my movie. Frank Gilbert.
Wait, your movie. Wait, Warren, before you talk, I actually have a clip.
Oh, boy.
And I've been dying to play it.
It's a good time for me to get a drink. You go ahead and say that.
You're gonna hate it, but I'm gonna play it.
We're quite a few years, and we're pretty good, right? Yeah, we're here. How would you guys like a real job? See how good we really are.
What else is new? The mustard, please. Thank you.
Hey, would you let me finish?
We've been over this 100 times.
I got one. That's right. I got a professional engagement, a real gig.
When? Where? Let the man talk.
A customer of mine knows this guy in a Catskill, owns a lodge. The guy had a cancellation the last 2 weeks of summer. I called him. I got the job. $200 a week, room and board. But I gotta let the guy know on Monday.
200 isn't much.
Be like a paid vacation. Jazz. You told him it was a jazz band?
Yeah, but I gotta let him know tomorrow.
He never even played the song. He asked us to play something for him while we were there. What'll it be?
You like blues the best.
Be flat.
That's enough of that.
That's what I think.
Gil, what was it? Gil what?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Gil Marcel or something. You was your character.
It was very funny. It's sort of a lot of things have happened to me like that. I used to work at Eddie Condon's place on 54th Street. And I had an accident. I had my hand in a cast. I'd cut myself while doing the dishes. So Billy Butterfield was playing Condon's for 2 weeks while I was recovering. And Billy had another gig. He called me up and said, "Could you possibly cover for me on one night?" So I said, sure. I went in. I had the horn rig so I could play with my left hand instead of my right. And I'm in there playing and finished the first set, went to the bar, got a drink. Guy taps me on the shoulder and he says, "Have you ever done any acting?" And I said, "No, but I'm willing to try anything if I can keep my clothes on." He said, he gave me a card and he said, "Give me a call." So it was Frank Gilroy who had written this wonderful little screenplay.
Oh, yeah.
And it was about a summer. You know, Frank had won the Pulitzer Prize for The Subject Was Roses. So this had been about a summer when he was in college and his jazz band got a gig. So I went and read, and the next thing I know, they cast me because they figured they could put the camera on me and I would sell the actors as musicians.
Right.
You know, I had to stop Wayne Rogers from holding the trombone on the brace back here to play, and things of that nature. And it was actually a ball. It wasn't too strenuous of a part. By my mother, I'm an actor. It's not King Lear. It's not. You know, I played a horny jazz trumpet player, and I was eminently qualified.
There you go. And that was not your only hit with Hollywood.
I had another hit.
Oh yeah, didn't you teach Richard Gere to play the cornet for
Yes.
Cotton Club?
Well, Richard had already played the trumpet in college, so he had a working knowledge of the instrument. And I got with him and wrote out a couple of solos for him to play during the Cotton Club. I had to go to Astoria, to the Kaufman Astoria studios 2 or 3 times a week while they were shooting it. And hey, nice pizza.
I know that. I know that because I was working with Emil Charlap at that time, copying the music for the Cotton Club movie.
Yeah, we had a Night of the Long Knives. I think Ralph Burns was the first guy that they hired to do the music. And halfway through, the whole thing went to hell, and Ralph got fired. They hired Bob Wilbur, and there was another guy hanging in the guy that he's dead now. A guy named Cy Johnson was involved.
Yep.
And I even got sent to one of Emil's recording sessions as a spy.
How about that?
Coppola had me going to make sure they're doing it right. And what am I going to tell them? No, they're not. Everything was fine.
Right. Yeah, I remember there was just like an endless copy job. I mean, it was just music kept coming and coming from all different sources.
It went on forever, that one, and there were days where they went. I mean, at the end of the shooting, in order to make sure that all the money is going to be paid back, they get a bond. And this had gone on so long that the bondsmen were standing behind Coppola's chair while he was shooting the last scenes. So, the things you learn about show business. Wake up, Joe Lang.
You're muted. How are you, Joe? Good to see you.
I just said I was not sleeping. I was looking at something on my cell phone.
That's what my father used to say. I'm not sleeping.
Oh, my father used to rest his eyes. Yeah.
Inspecting my lids.
Your
right?
eyes? Were you just resting your eyes?
Yeah.
Well, it's good to see y'all.
Nice to see you.
I'll go back to mute so I don't say something that I'll regret or you'll regret hearing.
Wish I could.
I'll go for it. You're amongst friends. Ray Cuneo is saying he's been thinking about Jerry Bruno lately. Do you know how he's doing? I assume he's no longer performing, and we actually lost him recently too.
Yes. He passed
I'm sorry to
early
say.
a couple of months ago. What is he, 100 or 101? I think he made 100.
He did make 100, I
Yeah,
think.
he made 100. He was wonderful. What a musician that guy was.
Yep. We had him down here a couple of times with Bucky, I guess.
Well, I worked with him with Bucky on many occasions and on other places. And I remember one night we were playing at the Cornerstone in Metuchen. And I just couldn't believe the bass notes and the time coming out of this guy. He never put a foot wrong.
Right.
Listening to him play the bass was like listening to Ella Fitzgerald sing. She never puts a foot wrong. He didn't know how to play a bad note.
One thing about Jerry was that when he passed, the Viagra stock went down.
Undoubtedly. When you played in Metuchen with him, what did they give? Was it Bill Holiday the night off or something?
Yeah, I think it was, Bill couldn't make it that night, and I just called Jerry, and he said, sure.
Oh, okay.
Again, show him $50, he'd play in your living room. He was happy to play.
We're talking about the Metuchen. It was called the Cornerstone at that time,
yep.
Right?
Yep.
Was one of the few jazz venues we had around here.
It's true.
And now it's gone.
It's still there, but it's under a different name with a whole different attitude.
Yeah. Somebody said trumpet versus cornet. Which did you start on, and why did you gravitate toward cornet?
Well, the old man came home one day, and he decided I was going to play the cornet. So he gave me a cornet, which I was just thrilled with. So I started on the cornet. Later on, I went to a trumpet. I played a Bach trumpet in high school, and I'm sure when you and I were at the Roselle Band School, I was probably playing a Bach trumpet.
Probably so, yeah.
And of course, I went to Montclair State College, and they they were not very accepting of cornets. Everybody wanted a trumpet, so I got another trumpet. And I played that through college. And then one day I'm in Manhattan with Kenny DeVerne, and I decided I needed another horn, so Kenny and I went to Giardinelli. And between the two of us, we picked out this Bench cornet. The difference for me is that the trumpet's a wonderful instrument, but it's got a very small tonal center. The cornet has a bit larger tonal center. It's a little bit wider, and I found it more expressive. Also, it didn't hurt that I'm lazy and the cornet's smaller, so it was easy to carry around. But I do much prefer the sound of the cornet. All my friends in the Imperial Brass Band look at me like I'm crazy, but I'll play either one. I told you I have a nice balanced action Selmer trumpet that I got back after 30 years, and I enjoy that too. It's a question of a feeling and what gets comfortable and what's the sound.
You have this great screw-on bell on your cornet, so that you can walk
so
around.
I can
with,
carry it even less, make it less.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like you're carrying a suitcase, a briefcase.
I have it rigged to carry in a briefcase because I was on too many goddamn planes where people kept trying to put their suitcase on top of it.
Right.
So I found this this ring for the bell. It means I unscrew the bell and I put it inside a briefcase and get on looking like an insurance salesman. I get free drinks and upgrades.
That's right. There you go. Mark and Judy Schulman. My wife Judy and I were regulars at the Cornerstone. We fondly remember you and your brother Alan on New Year's Eve at the Cornerstone. Think your parents were there too on one New Year's Eve. Best New Year's Eve ever.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I think Mom and Dad used to come. That was close enough that Mom and Dad could make it. And we had a lot of friends. A lot of friends from the Cornerstone.
Yeah.
Trying to think of his last name now. Frank Nissel. Frank Nissel from Pennsylvania was just a big fan and a wonderfully helpful guy. Nice man. And that was all through the Cornerstone.
We have, here's a little clip from you with my band at the Count Basie Theater. Let me see if I can rig that up.
So we have another tune, this time a Gershwin tune, straight up, and I asked John if he'd like to play it. And where is he? He's making nice with our lead trumpet player, who is Seneca Black, by the way, leading the section back there. So John said, listen, when you have somebody like Warren Bechet on the band, he's the guy that should come out and play that solo. So Warren said, if you're going to make me play that solo, I want you to play fourth trumpet in the band. So here he is. Get a room.
The silent applause of Zoom.
That was fun.
I see everyone.
I got close.
On the recording, I'll add some applause in.
Apples. Oh, look at claps and oh, look at a thumbs up even yet. Wow.
Yeah.
Noticing all of this.
That was fun. That was a fun concert, Warren. I'm glad you were with us.
Too bad you couldn't get anybody. That was a good band, Joe.
Not bad. Yeah. That was at the beginning, by the way. That was John Faddis that Warren kicked off the stage.
Not bloody likely. Nobody kicked John anywhere.
No, he went.
He and I actually did a tour for Lincoln Center of China with the Louis Armstrong band. Small
really?
band, big bands, and yeah, it was John and I and a whole band of people. We had a great time.
I know the one thing we didn't really touch on is you were really young, and suddenly you were with Benny Goodman, of all people. I mean, Jesus, like bang.
Yeah, it was pretty frightening. It was thanks to Bucky Pizzarelli, who mentioned my name to Benny. So the phone rings one day, and the voice says, "Hey, Warren, this is Benny." I said, "Benny who?"
Right.
He said, it's Benny Goodman. Can you work with us in New Hampshire on such and I said, yes, is what I said. So the next thing I know, this is one of the first times I'd been on an airplane. I flew up to New Hampshire, meet everybody at the airport in New Hampshire. And it turns out the band is Hank Jones, Slam Stewart, Connie Kay, Zoot Sims, Herbie Green, me, and Benny Goodman.
That's pretty wild.
All I can tell you, Joe, is this started a laundry problem which lasted 40 years. I was scared to death. But apparently I did okay. I was with him for about 10 years. And I met such wonderful people. Slam was
How old when you started?
22. I was 22 when
Incredible.
Well, I think half the reason I got the job, I was the only guy of that age that still knew Dixieland tunes.
Right.
To play "That's a Plenty" every concert. Now, that one I knew. The rest of it I was learning by the seat of my pants. I met such wonderful. Herbie was a dear, delightful guy to me. Always helped.
Herbie was such an amazing player. Holy cow!
Hank Jones was like Daddy. He was so caring and careful, such a gentleman. And the guy I got closest to in that band was a fellow named Buddy Tate, played tenor saxophone. He was with the Basie Band in the 40s. Mm-hmm. And Buddy was like my bandstand. He was my father. He just took care of me wherever I went. Benny, and then of course Connie Kay and I became very, very tight over the years because he worked not only with Benny, but we were working at Condon's 6 nights a week on 54th Street. So
right.
I'm a very fortunate fellow. I've gotten to work with a great many of the people I most admired, and I was able to learn from them and hang on.
It's true. I said it in the introduction, but you were working with all those people that I spent like my high school years listening to all those records, and all those names were on these records. For those of you who, most of our audience knows what a record is. But recordings, with all those great players on them, and they got to be sort of like revered names to me. So, and then Warren ends up playing with all these guys, and suddenly
the pressure was on, Joe. It wasn't exactly an easy spot to be in, but I was very grateful for it.
I'm sure. I was that was like you made your master's and doctorate all in one fell swoop there.
I have a wonderful story for you. I made a record for Concord later on in my time there, and I called Hank Jones and George Duvivier and Alan Dawson. All right, so I get to the studio. Hank and I got together. We figured out some tunes to play. I get to the studio. We're making the first take, and it dawns on me that these guys are so far above me. I'm just going to be swimming to get air. I'm starting to get so uptight and so scared that I actually was talking myself into not playing at all. So after about the second take, I hear in the headphones George Duvivier's voice. He says, "Young man, I'd like to speak with you." So everybody takes a break. I walk into the bass booth. George makes sure that the microphones aren't on. He looks at me and he says, "I see what's going on. Stop it. Do whatever it takes. Go outside, take a walk. You need to go to a bar, get a drink, do it. Get yourself together and come back here and play your job. We're here for you." And I get tears in my eyes when I think about that.
Wow.
You know, he saw exactly me winding myself around a post and stopped me from doing it. And I'll never be more grateful. He was a dear, dear man.
That's fantastic. Carmen, there's no way to follow that up. Carmen, can I ask you to do our little commercial? You have to unmute yourself.
Sure, I've got to unmute myself. Yeah, there's really no way to follow that up. The only thing I can say is that, this is a wonderful night. This is a wonderful event. It's really great to have your company, Warren. So appreciative. We've been doing this show. Is this what is this, the third month, Joe? We've been doing this for a while.
We're up to like number 15, I think.
Yeah, so you've joined a great canon of wonderful artists, and this is just beautiful. So just want to thank you for being here, and we want to thank all of you for being here. And I've said it week after week, Jazz Arts Project is going strong. We're moving forward. We are teaching the summer camp right now. I think Joe's got about 3 more weeks, I think, of summer camp classes.
2 weeks left.
2 weeks left. And you guys getting good on the Zoom? You're figuring it out? You getting there?
We're getting there.
Joe? We're getting there.
It's difficult, man. It is difficult.
It is difficult, but we're still moving on. And like great jazz musicians, you figure it out as you go along. You improvise. You come up with new things and new techniques. So just want to say that we appreciate your support. For those of you who've given, I just want to say thank you because we have been getting some donations through our account, which I just put up there, www.jazzartsproject.org/donate.
We're a little behind in our acknowledgments. We'll get to those, but we appreciate it. And
yes,
we will promise we'll get to the acknowledgments.
But do want to say thank you for supporting, and for those who would like to support, the link is right there. So thank you guys so much. And Warren, thank you. Beautiful music tonight. And I actually was really the gig, man. I love 80s movies, so that's going to be on my to-do list to watch the gig. I can't believe I was a teenager in the 80s, so it's so weird to see 80s movies now that look like they're classic movies, like from back in the day. That's a 35-year-old movie. But I like all the editing and love your hair and your little mustache.
Oh, yeah, the hair is a big thing. I've got to grow it where I can.
You kind of.
I hope you find a copy of it.
Well, I would imagine it would be on. I could find it online somewhere. But
I found it. I found it on YouTube. The whole thing.
You did the whole thing? Yeah, and there was
the greatest shape to watch, but
someplace where it doesn't pay any royalties.
Of course. Well, it's also got good reviews. I've read the reviews, so it's a nice little gem. So thank you.
He was a lovely guy, Frank Gilroy, and he just passed about a year ago.
Oh yeah, it's such a cool story. It's like I guess to musicians it speaks a little bit. It's like we're playing and you get a gig and you find out. I don't want to be a spoiler, but you find out the gig ain't what you thought it was.
It ain't about what you want it to be about.
Right. Which is, it happens.
Well, that's a good lesson to learn.
Right.
You play behind the singer, it's not about you. Stay out of the singer's way. You go to work for a band leader, it's not about you. Do the job.
Many, many people don't know that, or haven't experienced that, or haven't learned that lesson. You, I know, are one of the best people to put behind a singer, because you know exactly when to stay away.
The thing is staying out of their way. That's the whole deal. Don't play anything that takes attention away from them or confuses them. That's easy to do sometimes.
So, question, Joe. It sounds like you had something to say.
Marlene like to have behind. I said there's nobody that Marlene used to want to have behind her more than you. She just thought you were the greatest.
Well,
Marlena Verplank. We're talking
Marlene
about.
Verplank, yeah, she and Billy, I'm going to use the wrong name, Billy Verplank. They were wonderful musicians, and I loved working with them. Billy used to overwrite like mad. You got a chart. You got a chart working for Marlene. It was like a roll of toilet paper. It was that thick, and it folded and it folded and it ran, and you got everything on there from the chimes part to the drum cue. Trying to figure out what Billy wanted you to do took an awful lot. It took an awful lot of staying out of trouble.
We actually had Marlena at Summer Jazz Cafe many years ago. We lost her since then. Oh man, we lost so many great people.
As my dad used to say, the older you get, the more that happens.
I guess so. Yeah. Were there any other questions to wrap this up in the chat? Anybody?
I think there was a question. Did we get to the question from Glenn about did you ever play the flugelhorn? Did we get there?
Oh, Glenn missed the Cherokee.
Yeah, the Cherokee clip was me on a
From the beginning.
flugelhorn. And yes, I have played flugelhorn and still do. I have a lovely Queen on.
Glenn, as soon as we go off, look up YouTube Warren Bechet Cherokee. You'll find it. It's a great cut.
Okay. Will do.
And incidentally, I gave that flugelhorn to Joe Wilder. That was the last flugelhorn Joe Wilder played.
Oh, wow. Okie dokie. Looks like we're a little overtime here. So somebody did say, I don't know if I want to put you on the spot or not, but somebody did say, are you going to grace us with a little live performance? Is your axe nearby?
Nobody hires me for my personality.
It's a take.
All takes, whether they're good or bad, doesn't matter.
There you go. Okay, guys. I'm over time, so I think I should clean it up. As usual, we have a little bit of a after gig hang for those of you who want to hang out and chat a little bit, but we're going to officially end the proceedings right now.
Just let me mention that Shanghai Jazz has started live music again outdoors in the parking lot. I'll be there with Eddie Montero, Vinnie Correo, and Earl Sauls on September 16. And next Wednesday is Nicky Parrott. So give him a hand. He's doing his best to keep music going and live and keep the restaurant open. So
that's
Shanghai Jazz. Playing outdoors?
Yep.
Yeah, outdoors. Shanghai Jazz up in Madison. It's a great venue. It's great food. Absolutely. And, Warren's up there. It's going to be great music. There's no question about it. And Eddie Montero, you and Eddie Montero are a great team.
I like it.
Yeah.
He makes a lot of unsignaled left-hand turns harmonically.
There you go. All right. Like I said, we'll have a little bit of an after gig hang. And next week, I can't quite announce it yet, but it's going to be nice. I'll announce it tomorrow or the next day when I get an actual confirmation. But next week, Monday, we'll be right here. Same bat channel, same bat station, same bat time.
You are old.
Let's see. Thank you all for coming. You know, tell your friends, bring them all. We're unlimited to how many we can cram into this room here. So, you know, bring your friends along, and it can be like, you know, like almost like live, almost. But okay, so folks, thanks again. We're gonna end officially and start the after gig hang. That means I'm gonna stop the recording.